Hello, this is Confabulation. I am David, and my pronouns are he, him. Joining me is,
I'm Rose, and my pronouns are she and her.
and we are from our sister's house, a domestic violence advocacy education organization. If you have anyone you know is experiencing domestic violence, you can call our hotline at 253-383-4275 or visit our website at oursistershouse.com. And this episode is code switching. Our explanation for code switching involves adjusting one style of speech, approaching behavior and expression in ways that will optimize the comfort of others in exchange for fair treatment, quality service, and employment opportunities.
Mhm.
And so defined terms are um, coming to the Black community would be Ebonics. That might be an outdated term, but which simply means Black speech, a blend of words, ebony, black, and phonics, sounds. The term was created in 1973 by a group of Black scholars who disliked the negative connotation of the terms like non-standard Negro English. Okay, I get that. That has been coined in the 1960s when the first modern scale linguistic studies of African American speech communities began. And then some rules of Ebonics are the double negative, nobody can't go out tonight, or the negative inversion, can't nobody go out tonight. Um, the thought that two negatives create a positive is considered an error in standard English. Ebonics uses verbs to dictate notions of time, whether activities or finished or in progress. I'm fixing to go to the store. I'm getting ready to go to the store. The verb to be is used in the tense been, which means an action is still going to happen or it is happening.
Mhm.
Another example is sometimes pronounced the, like French language, which doesn't pronounce the, I'm kind of lost too, can also be voiceless T or voiced V, such as bruv, rather than brother. Um,
I
so
think they
yeah,
got that one wrong. They
yeah.
said bruv. It's more like bruh. Not with the V. It's more like bruh. Take the two V's out and then
Well,
be.
well, well, that's how it's written. Bruv,
Mhm.
bruv is actually it is a term that they use in Britain. It is a slang term in Britain. They say bruv instead of bruh.
Mm.
So it's actually a thing. It's more of a Britain. It's more of a people that are from England type of thing. But it
And
is
then with
a term.
us, it's not proper English.
Yeah, it's still not proper English. Yeah,
With
even
us, it's
even in technically, um, they're originators of English. So it would
exactly.
it technically is more proper than American English. They made it up, I guess.
Exactly. So the
Yeah,
first come over here and you're like, oh, that's not proper. Yes, it is where we are.
yeah. So basically, I know that I and Rose have code switched before. I
Mhm.
even saw an interesting video of I don't know if anybody on a podcast knows who Prime is, but another maybe our older audience or maybe people that are interested in the NFL, they might know of who Deion Sanders is.
Mhm.
He was a very athletic. Is a Hall of Famer. That means like he's one of the best football players in the
Yes.
world or in the US because who else plays American football in any other country? Probably nobody.
Okay.
Anyway, so
Exactly.
anywho, um, his name is Prime, and now he's a coach. Well, Deion Sanders, and he's a coach of Jackson State University, which is a HBCU. Whoop whoop.
Mhm.
And he was being interviewed by another colleague that was also black, but he was, an interviewer, and he's doing an interview, of the coaches after the game or press conference
Mhm.
stuff like that. And then so I guess he was having a conversation with Deion Sanders before the thing. What's also very known about Deion Sanders, he's not known for code switching. He just, tells you like it is, and tells it in his way. And oftentimes
Mhm.
it's, not considered proper, but it's, how, a lot of black people
Yeah.
speak already. But he's a
Mhm.
professional, but he doesn't, follow the guidelines of code switching. So when he was
Mhm.
speaking to another professional black person that was a, news reporter, usually news reporters, or, they change up their voices. They, go from, talking like me to, hello, today is, the news, blah, 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 whatever, the weather.
Mhm.
And so he did that code switch. And then Deion Sanders, called him out on it. He said, why aren't you talking to me normally? And he's like, what, is it not professional?
Mhm.
It was just a funny interaction because he knew the person. They had a conversation before, so he just called him out on his code switching, which was pretty, funny, to me. So, it often
Exactly.
happens, and I'm sure it happens in other communities, and I'm sure it happens in the Hispanic community, but obviously I'm in the black community, so I can, speak more towards
Mhm.
that. But oftentimes, I remember when I was younger, I would be on the phone. I mean, I would hear my mom on the phone, and she talks to us, and she talks to you, her children, some kind of way. You better get that, blah blah blah. I know you isn't. You better. And then as soon as the phone call comes in, hello, yes, and I would be looking at my mom's with my hand on my hip, and I'd be like, huh.
Okay.
And that was, I guess that was kind of my first experience of really seeing code switching. And I don't know, just, just me being naive, I was just appalled. I was like, you don't ever talk like that. You know, your parents,
Exactly.
you're like, oh, that was I didn't know the term, but I knew that she was doing something different than she usually does. So, and this not to bash my mom, but this just to give example of, like, code switching, how, my first experience, to make it more, relatable. And I'm sure somebody else, I don't know if Rose has a similar experience, but you can talk
That's
about that.
like that reminds me of myself because I'm reading this also, and it's stating how difficult it is to control speech for African Americans. And then as we go further along, it talks about the downside of code switching, which would generate in group hostility of being accused of acting white. Reduces authenticity, self-expression. But like you said, because and the reason I laugh when you said it, it reminds me so much of my brother. And it's funny because his name was David too. And I would sit and we would be talking, like you and I are talking, whatever, whatever. And then, like you said, the phone rings or I make a phone call. And he's like, you sound so white. Why do I sound? And I used to tell him, oh, I'm supposed to say, yo, 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 can I get an appointment? What times you got? I said, I can't do that. I have to be professional. So I have to change. He's like, white girl. You was black a few minutes ago. Now you get on the phone and you're white. So I cracked up when you said that. So it's like, that reminds me of myself. It was, a way of code switching, but I never thought of it like that. I just thought of it as, okay, I can't talk to a professional the way I talk to a friend. I have to, put on my professional voice. It's still me, but I just can't do all the, like they say, ebonics and stuff. I can't talk to them like that if I want a job. So gotta switch it up a little bit. But yeah, that is so funny. All I thought about was myself.
And sometimes it just takes that conversation with some people, because um maybe sometimes, like, code switching is, another type of language, another form of connection.
Mhm.
So, it's kind of like when people agree on a food, maybe a food that other people don't know in the, community that you're in. you know
Mhm.
if I talked about pupusas, that is relative to, some um Central American, South American countries that, is very popular. But in
Mhm.
America, it's not as popular, as tacos. Everybody knows what
True.
tacos are, but a pupusa is basically like a thicker tortilla with, beans and cheese or maybe some meat in there or some type of protein in there.
Mhm.
Um, but if I was able to connect with I probably could connect with somebody that is Salvadoran, probably with that, that would
Exactly.
make a better connection with just some foods that we can connect with. And it's the same thing with some words, or and so I know that sometimes happens in conversations. Like if I wasn't to know Rose, I know that we started talking about Thanksgiving. We started
Mhm.
talking about Thanksgiving last week over a call. And then I was able to connect with Rose a little bit more because we eat some of the same things. So if we eat some of the same things, we probably speak somewhat the same language. So we talked
Mhm.
about sweet potatoes and green bean, collard greens, and
Mhm.
candied yams and sweet potatoes. I'm getting hungry right now, but you
Dang,
know,
I'm so tired of Thanksgiving right now.
I'm
Like,
not.
man.
I can do the same thing over and over and over and over again. But yeah,
Exactly.
but as soon as you hear something like that, you're like, you feel more at home. You feel like you can, relate to this person. So you can talk. You feel like, there's a weight lifted off your shoulders. You can talk to this person like you
Exactly.
know them. So, that's also, why code switching is a thing, in our communities. You don't feel like you'll be able to connect, so you try to speak the language that they speak. And the same
Mhm.
thing with professionalism. We can't talk a certain way, and you can't act a certain way, and even in certain places, you can't even, put your own hairstyle, the
True.
hairstyles you put on and stuff like that. Or, if you put a head wrap on, people are going to ask you a million questions. Why you got a head wrap on? What they
Okay.
don't even know what a head wrap is. Why do you got that on your head? What is that even for?
And
Um,
why you got an afro? Because everything now it's all natural hair.
yeah,
Everybody's going to like their natural look. And okay, you got an afro, so why didn't you comb your hair this morning? I combed my hair. That's just the style that I chose to do this morning. It's
mhm,
like wow, but it's quite a bit, and it's bringing me back to a time to where I had an interview, and of course, interviews at jobs you're always nervous, but there was one interviewer to where he just asked me different questions and it helped me to relax. And at the end of the interview, I felt like, was this really an interview? Because we were talking as if you and I were talking, which was a good thing, I figured, because he did a code switch that, you don't think about just to help to relax his potential employee, which was a good thing. And I, feel like some employers should do that because it'll bring everything and it'll get you a chance to know that person a little bit more because they're relaxed. You're like,
mm,
okay, do I want to hire this person for sure or not?
yeah. Um, and I really, this is a side note, I guess. I really respect people that don't code switch. I
Mm-hmm.
feel like they are always themselves, and sometimes that's really good because you know where you stand with them. They're
True.
going to be who they are, and you know what you're going to get from them. So that's also a good side of not code switching.
Mm-hmm.
There's positive and negatives to code switching.
True.
um, and some of the things that we say as a black community that are universal language to us is oftentimes seen looked down upon, or they don't speak perfectly good English or whatever that may look like. And I might have said a few things
Mm-hmm.
already in this conversation that doesn't go along with, I guess, the standard of how
That's
things
how
are
you're
supposed
supposed to
to be
talk.
said. Yeah,
Mm-hmm. You're not using proper English. You need to
yeah,
talk like this. Like this is just the way that I talk. I'm sorry. That's
yeah.
me. This is what you see is what you get. In other words,
Mhm. And and I guess another negative, because sometimes that does happen in the black community where, even when we do code switch, like you were saying earlier, Rose, like, um, some black people say, "Oh, you're talking white," or "You're not as black
Mhm.
enough," and stuff like that. So, um, doing the code switching sometimes, is looked in a negative light, in
Mhm.
the black community. I don't know about any other communities, but I know, sometimes in ours. Um,
Yeah. And then I'm looking at too this little side note. I'm looking at a little bullet that is pretty true, and it says people who use ebonics are stereotypically classified as dumb, illiterate, and lower class or ghetto. These stereotypes also cause classism between the legal system and survivors. The legal system disproportionately favors those of higher social economic status and higher education backgrounds. That to me is, I mean, like you said, if you are yourself and you don't code switch, you do not know that person until you actually sit down and talk with that person. Just because that person may use ebonics, that's just how that person is. You never know. That person could have a bachelor's degree in something. You do not know because you don't know that person. You just are judging him by the way he or she talks, which is not good. She and that person is just being themselves, and they feel, okay, well, I don't need to change myself to suit someone else. I'm just going to continue to be me. So you get me is what you get.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
sometimes, those people are, a lot of times those people are really smart.
Mm-hmm.
Being able to be who you are, is really
Exactly.
important. And especially if you can stay consistent. Again, people will know who you are, and
Exactly.
oftentimes, being yourself will get you the furthest.
True.
Times
Mm-hmm.
the code switching will get you into places, you know, that you think you might wanna be in, and then when you're there, like, I don't feel like myself at all. I've code switched so much that I've switched off the code of my life,
Mm-hmm.
that I really feel a part of, that is me. Now you feel like an imposter. So,
Yep. You
sometimes
have to
that's
keep
a
that
balance.
face on.
Yeah.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. To continue to keep that face like, okay, I got to keep put up with this because this is what I did and that's how they see me, and I can't be myself and relax.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's more pressure at all because it's like, okay, you go to work. Reminds me of, like, I think it was, gosh, I think it was Barbershop. Nope, it wasn't Barbershop. It was Everybody Hates Chris. And one episode was where the dad talked a certain way while he was at work. And then when he went to the barbershop, he totally changed. He was like totally himself. And Chris was like, oh, seeing the difference between, okay, this is work dad, this is the barbershop, relax with my friends dad. So it's like he putting on a scenario who he is at work because he can't sit and be himself.
Yeah. Yeah, again, I applaud those people that can, definitely I'm, outing myself.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I can be the person where, well, I would want to be, I guess one day, be the person where I'm the same, in every scenario.
Mm-hmm.
And people can respect that because they know where they stand with you. And, you
Exactly.
know, and being yourself again gets you, the furthest in life,
True.
being who you need to be. Um,
Exactly.
yeah.
That's about it.
So, what does this have to do? I do want to end it with, um, what does this have to do with, or how does this affect domestic violence survivors? You know,
Mm-hmm.
um, sometimes in an earlier episode, we were talking about, how survivors, come to different communities, and they have to, when it comes to the black community, black women are considered strong, especially how they, deal with domestic violence situations. Sometimes people think, oh, that she can stick up for herself just because of the way she talks. Um,
Yeah.
No, a lot of times it comes from a place of hurt,
Hmm.
what ultimately is, what gets them the furthest, what they think is gets them the furthest is, I got to be tough, and that's in our music and that's in movies and stuff like that, the strong black woman, but it's okay, to be weak. It's okay to need help. It's okay to be, I'm not okay.
Yeah.
And, you know, and I need help and stuff like that. So, um, and that shows a lot of times and aspects when it comes to dealing with the police because, oh, because she said this and that, or how she talks, um, it, she must not, she must be fine. She must be fine.
Hmm. And it's okay to cry if you need to cry. Now, I mean, that's even bringing up the scenario that men don't cry. You have to be tough. You can't cry. You're sissy if you cry. I mean, if you hurt, you can cry. It's okay to cry if you're hurt. You don't have to be, oh, I'm the strong man, so that goes for both because people don't look at it like, oh, okay, a woman. They look at men like, okay, you're not supposed to cry at all. You're a sissy if you cry. But they have feelings just like we have feelings and emotions. And bottling them up inside is not good for a man either. So
Yeah.
men can cry like women.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, and with that, thank you for listening. This has been Confabulation. Again, we are our sister's house. And if you know anyone or anyone you know is experiencing domestic violence, please call our helpline at 253-383-4275 or visit our website at oursistershouse.com.